A dead man is no good to anyone, said Nathu the old shikari, as he stared into the glowing embers of the campfire and wrapped a thin blanket around his thin shoulders. We had spent a rewarding but tiring day in the Terai forests near Haldwani, where I had been photographing swamp deer. On our return to the forest rest house, Nathu had made a log fire near the front veranda, and we had gathered round it, Nathu, myself, and Ghanshyam Singh the Chaukidar, discussing a suicide that had taken place in a neighboring village. I forget the details of the suicide. It was connected with a disappointed bridegroom, but the discussion led to some interesting reminiscences on the part of Ghanshyam Singh. We had all agreed with Nathu's sentiments about dead men when Ghanshyam interrupted to say, "I don't know about that, brother. At least one dead man brought considerable good fortune to a friend of mine." "How was that?" I asked. "Well, about 20 years ago," said Ghanshyam Singh, "I was a policeman, one of the 6 constables at a small police post in the village of Ahirpur near the hills. A small stream ran past the village. Fed by springs, it contained a few feet of water even during the hottest of seasons, while after heavy rain it became a roaring torrent. The head constable in charge of our post was Dilawar Singh, who came from a good family which had fallen on evil days. He was a handsome fellow, very well dressed, always spending his money before he received it. He was passionately fond of good horseflesh, and the mare he rode was a beautiful creature named Leila. He had obtained the mare by paying 250 rupees down and promising to pay the remaining 250 in 6 months' time. If he failed to do so, he would have to return the mare and forfeit the deposit. But Dilawar Singh expected to be able to borrow the balance from Lala Ramdas, the wealthy Bania of Ahirpur. The Bania of Ahirpur was one of the meanest alive. You know the sort, fat and flabby from overeating and sitting all day in his shop, but very wealthy. His house was a large one, situated near the stream, at some distance from the village. But why did he live outside the village, away from his customers? I asked. It made no difference to him, said Ghanshyam. Everyone was in his debt, and, whether they liked it or not, were compelled to deal with him. His father had lived inside the village but had been looted by the courts, whose ill-treatment had left him a cripple for life. Not a single villager had come to his assistance on that occasion. He had never forgotten it. He built himself another house outside the village, with a high wall and only one entrance. Inside the wall was a courtyard with a stable for a pony and a byre for 2 cows, the house itself forming one side of the enclosure. When the heavy door of the courtyard was closed, the Bania's money bags were safe within his little fort. It was only after the old man's death that a police post was established at Ahirpur. So Ram Das had a police post as well as a fort? The police offered him no protection. He was so mean that not a liter of oil or pinch of salt ever came from him to the police post. Naturally, we wasted no love on him. The people of Ahirpur hated and feared him, for most of them were in his debt and practically his slaves. Now when the time came for Dilawar Singh to pay the remaining 250 rupees for his mare Leila, he went to Ram Das for a loan. He expected to be well squeezed in the way of interest, but to his great surprise and anger the Bania refused to Let him have the money on any terms. It looked as though Dilawar would have to return the mare and be content with some knock-kneed ek kapuni. A few days before the date of payment, Dilawar Singh had to visit a village some 5 miles downstream to investigate a case. He took me with him. On our return journey that night, a terrific thunderstorm compelled us to take shelter in a small hut in the forest. When at last the storm was over, we continued on our way, I on foot, and Dilawar Singh riding Laila. All the way he cursed his ill luck at having to part with Laila, and called down curses on Ram Das. We were not far from the Banya's house when the full moon, high in the sky, came out from behind the passing storm clouds, and suddenly Laila shied violently at something white on the bank of the stream. It was the naked body of a dead man. It had either been pushed into the stream without burning or swept off the pyre by the swollen torrent. I was about to push it off into the stream when Dilawar stopped me, saying that the corpse which had frightened Laila might yet be able to save her. Together we pulled the body a little way up the bank, then, after tying the mare to a tree, we carried the corpse up to the Banya's house and propped it against the main doorway. Returning to the stream, Dilawar remounted Laila, and we concealed ourselves in the forest. Like everyone else in the village, we knew the Banya was an early riser, always the first to leave his house and complete his morning ablutions. We sat and waited. The faint light of dawn was just beginning to make things visible when we heard the Banya's courtyard door open. There was a thud, an exclamation, and then a long silence. What had happened? Ram Das had opened the door, and the corpse had fallen upon him. He was frightened almost out of his wits. That some enemy was responsible for the presence of the corpse he quickly realized, but how to rid himself of it? The stream. Even to touch the corpse was defilement, but, as the saying goes, where there are no eyes, there is no caste, and he began to drag the body along the river bank, panting and perspiring, yet cold with terror. He had almost reached the stream when we emerged casually from our shelter. Ah, Banyaji, you are up early this morning, called Dilawar Singh. Hello, what's this? Is this one of your unfortunate debtors? Have you taken his life as well as his clothes? Ram Das fell on his knees. His voice failed, and he went as pale as the corpse he still held by the feet. Dilawar Singh dismounted, caught him roughly by the arm and dragged him to his feet. Thanadar Sahib, I will let you have the money, gasped Ram Das. What money? The 250 rupees you wanted last week. Then hurry up, said Dilawar Singh, or someone will come, and I shall be compelled to arrest you. Run. The unfortunate Ram Das realized that he was in an evil predicament. True, he was innocent, but before he could prove this he would be arrested by the police whom he had scorned and flouted, lawyers would devour his savings, he would be torn from his family and deprived of his comforts, and worst of all, his clients would delay repayments. After only a little hesitation, he ran to his house and returned with 250 rupees, which he handed over to Dilawar Singh. And, as far as I know, for I was transferred from Ahirpur a few weeks later, he never asked Dilawar Singh for its return. And what of the body? I asked. We pushed it back into the stream, said Ghanshyam. It had served its purpose well. Nathu, do you insist that a dead man is no good to anyone? No good at all, said Nathu, spitting into the fire's fast-fading glow. For I came to Ahirpur not long after you were transferred. I had the pleasure of meeting Thanadar Dilawar Singh and seeing his fine mare. It is true that he had the banya under his thumb. For Ram Das provided all the feed for the mare, at no charge. But one day the mare had a fit while Dilawar Singh was riding her, and plunging about in the street, flung her master to the ground with a broken neck. She was indeed a dead man's gift. The banya must have been quite pleased at the turn of events, I said. Some say he poisoned the mare's feed. Anyway, he kept the police happy by providing the oil to light poor Dilawar Singh's funeral pyre, and generously refused to accept any payment for it.